Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Lost Love Stories. I'm Pam Baker, and I am really excited today because I have a new friend, and her name is Elle Davis, and she's freaking amazing. A total badass. I swear on here sometimes about Elle. Elle, I don't know if I told you that, but she is an author. She has a TED Talks. She is a public speaker. She is the founder of a group that she calls Ellevate. Get it? The Ellevate Group with her name in there and her title, which I love, Chief Elevation Officer, of course, founder too, but oh my God, so cool. She's also a widow and lost her husband, Paul, at a very young age with a very young child. And we're going to talk about that, of course, and then we're going to talk about all the amazing things that Elle has done. And she's joining us from Chicago. So welcome, Elle. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, Pam. I'm so excited to be here. So excited to just have met you. And I think that there are so many, I can't wait for this conversation because there's just so
I
many
know.
similarities, so many things that, those little things that you don't know that connect you to a person. So super excited.
I
Thank you for
know.
having me.
I am so glad. I'm so glad that you're here. So, we, we'll get into all the amazing things that you're doing, but first, I want to learn more about Paul. So tell me your story. How did you guys meet? Because I don't even think we've talked about that yet.
We haven't. And I laugh when you ask that question because I always tell people Paul was the obnoxious guy messing with everyone that I was like,
Okay.
let me get away from this man quickly.
That's amazing.
So Sunday, I'm a sports fan, and so back, what year was that? 2007, actually. Me and a few friends were like, oh, let's go watch Sunday Night Football. We'll go hang out, have something to eat, because that's what 30-year-olds do, right? Like you hang out with
Yeah.
your friends, you
Hmm.
go.
Just have
And
fun.
yeah, you have fun. We walk into this place, and we sit at a table, and there's this guy. There's these two guys sitting at a table, and one guy, like as we're walking in, he's literally like just talking. Hey, what's going on? Hey, how you doing? And I'm like, oh
Oh my
my
God.
gosh. And I'm like
One
not
of
in the
those.
mood. Yeah, one of those. And here's the thing, I'm not in the mood because the guy that I had been like dating on again, off again, had worked my last nerves that day. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I just want quiet. Like I really just wanted to be on my couch, but my friends were like, no, you need to come out, come hang out.
Hmm.
And so Paul is the person who is messing with everybody, and I'm just like this dude. And literally, we're there for like an hour and a half, and I just hear him from across the room, just like talking to random people. Finally, I was like, okay, it's time for me to go. I get up to leave, and he was like, "Where are you going?" And I was
Oh my
like,
God.
"Sir, who are you talking
Right.
to?
Yeah.
Are you talking to me? Like, what's going on?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm talking to you." He was like, "Where are you going?" And he was like, "You're beautiful." And I was like, "Oh, here we go." So I'm like totally just
Yeah.
like blowing him
Hmm.
off, but stood there long enough to be somewhat interested, somewhat intrigued, and stood there long enough turned into me standing there for probably an hour, which stood into
Wow.
him like, I'm not going to ask you for your number because I just went through a divorce and I'm moving to Maryland to be with my daughter, like to be closer to my
Oh
daughter.
wow.
Then turned into, I would be a fool not to ask you for your number,
Oh wow.
which turned
Oh my God.
into, call me when you get home, which turned into hours long conversation into the next morning.
Wow. That's, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah,
That,
so
I mean,
sometimes
what
you
do you
gotta
think?
just be open, right?
You gotta be open. And now I'm like curious, like, do you remember, was there like a moment where you're like, went from being like, skirt, like, don't, to being like, maybe. I'm
So I
intrigued.
think the moment was
Mhm.
I'm a have a relationship with God, and he said to me, he was like, I see God's light on you.
Ooh. Had you
And I
talked about God
was,
yet at this point?
no,
Oh, wow.
exactly. And he
Mm.
said, I
Okay.
see God's light on you. And he goes, he said something, I used to have it memorized, but it was something to the extent of, you're a gem when you choose to shine, or something like that. Like, and I was like,
Uh-huh.
who? I was like, is this dude just super slick? Or like, what's going on here? Like, what's happening right
Yeah.
now? And so
Wow.
that intrigued me to say, well, who
Hmm.
are you? What's happening? And he did most of the
Yeah.
talking. I didn't do a lot of talking. I mean, he asked me a question here and there, and I would answer the question, but it was just very like full of like revelation and full of like admiration. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, this is different. Something here is
Yeah.
different. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
I
Interesting.
know,
Okay.
right?
Okay. That's a good story. Dang. I don't think I've ever heard one like that before.
Yeah,
That's good.
it was different. It was so different that, I mean, it was about 2 weeks before we went on our like first date officially.
Mhm.
Our first date was 12 hours.
Oh my God. Wow. What did you do? Where were you? Where did he take you?
He picked me up. He lived in, so I'm in Chicago proper. I'm in the city. And he
Okay.
lived in LaGrange, which is a western, I guess it's considered kind of a western, like southwestern suburb, about,
Okay.
oh, maybe about 20, 25 minutes outside of the city. So he came, picked me up. We went back out towards LaGrange. We went to Panera, had
Hmm.
lunch, played games. Like, I brought this game called Mancala, taught
Okay.
him how to play Mancala. I think we also played Uno. We went to a movie. And then we went and grabbed dinner somewhere else. And we tried to go Boston Market. Is it not Boston Market? What's the What's the place that used to have all the pies? I can't think of the name of the
Oh,
restaurant. I
wasn't
can't think
Boston
of it.
Market.
But
Yeah, I
yeah,
can't think.
it's like they had all the
Hmm.
pies that people would go to
Yeah.
for pies. And we tried to go get dessert. I'm not a big pie person, but they did have some other kind of dessert that I want. And so I think we stopped by there, and then he finally like took me home after like 12
Oh my
hours.
God. That's a good sign, obviously, though, because you didn't run out of
Yeah.
things to say and you're like, whoa, when is this going to be over?
Nope. It was
Yeah.
just like, wow,
Wow.
I've spent a whole day with you. And
Yeah,
we
like two
just met
meals.
2 weeks
And
ago.
yeah.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you like talking on the phone all the time and
All the time. Like, I
having,
don't
yeah.
remember, from the moment we met, I don't remember a time where we did not talk until he passed.
Wow. Oh my God. That's crazy.
It is.
Hmm. Really interesting. I'm like, what's that movie? It's a cartoon. Is it Transylvania? The one where they're talking about you zinged, you zinged, they
Oh, I think
zinged.
it is it Hotel Transylvania. I don't
Hotel
know.
Transylvania. Yeah, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. When they zinged, that's what's coming to my mind. You zinged. That's awesome. Okay, so you guys were dating, and then how did that whole walk us through the relationship up till you decided you're gonna be together and build a life and all the good things?
Yeah. So as I talked about, Paul had previously been married, had a daughter already, and so at the time, I guess she was like 4, and didn't, his relationship with her was a little strained because his ex-wife did move back to her
Mhm.
home state. And so, that was something that weighed heavy on him. And, I think he did question whether or not to get into a relationship because he was like, I
Mhm.
really want to be close to my daughter. I don't want to be this
Yeah.
far away from her. But he says this was always his story, is that within 2 weeks of meeting me, so I don't know if this was, now I didn't clarify this, I wish I would have clarified this, I don't know
Mhm.
if this was before the 12-hour date or after the 12-hour
Right.
date,
Okay.
but he did say that within a very short time period that God told him that I was going to be his wife.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I was like, whoa. And he kind of told me that within like the first month. And I had apprehension because he was actually 13 years older than me.
Okay.
So when
And
I
you haven't been
met,
married.
I had never been married. When I met Paul, I was 30. It was shortly after my 30th birthday. He was
Okay.
13 years older than me, so he was 43. My
Mm-hmm.
parents, I have young parents. I have teen parents. So my mom was 17 when she had me. My dad was 18. So he was closer in age to my parents than to me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, not so sure about this, right? Like I
Yeah.
remember I remember going to dinner with my mom and talking about him, and I was just like, yeah, I don't know. I was like, he's more your peer than,
Yeah.
like my person.
Which is a little weird, but yeah.
And she was just like, well, she's like, if it was a couple more years, maybe. She was like, but she's like,
Mm-hmm.
I've always been the person that's always been mature for my age, always dated at least like 4 years older. So like that wasn't
Mm-hmm.
completely a surprise, but I was just like, I don't know about this. 13 years feels like a lot. But then
Yeah.
it didn't, like,
But then it didn't. I think it's one of those, and I talk about this a lot, not necessarily here, but with my friends. It is like as you get older, that gap is smaller. There's
yes,
a
I
big difference when
agree.
you're in your early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s,
Agreed.
you're in there. That gap is big, but kind of when you're into your 30s, you kind of settled into who you are, you know who you
Exactly.
are and what you want, and I don't think it doesn't represent such a big gap anymore.
Yeah,
You know.
agreed. And so that was the thing. I think that's what my
Mhm.
mom was saying to me. But it's funny because, oh my gosh, just recently it was, I don't know, my daughter was talking about something. My daughter's 14 now, and I said something about, well, yeah, me and your dad 13 years apart, and she goes, yeah, and that's crazy.
Because she's thinking, okay, how old is somebody 13 years older than me right now? Which not
It's
appropriate.
not
Not
appropriate.
appropriate when you're 14. But yeah, yeah. So I can
Yeah.
see a 14-year-old being like, ew, gross.
Yeah, she was just
Yeah.
like, "That's crazy, mommy," and I'm just like,
Hmm.
but we, like I said, our time just went from like meeting on that Sunday to just being pretty much inseparable. Like, unless,
Hmm.
I was traveling or he was traveling, and even then we were talking all the
Hmm.
time. We were just constantly connected. And then so we met like fall of 2007. Um,
Okay.
and then in 2010, so he always joked with me because all of my friends were like getting married and having kids around that time. And so he thought I was very anxious about it. And I was like, honestly, I'm
Hmm.
not. I was just like, it is around me, right? And I was the
Yeah.
type of person that was like, okay, if God told you, within 2 weeks that we're supposed to be together, then what's the issue, right? Like, if we're going to do this,
Right.
then let's do it. But December 7th, 2010, he surprised me. I was actually consulting with an organization, and they had kept me on as a consultant. And so we were like wrapping up some reports, and we had like a separate office space that we were in for a temporary project. And I literally had just warmed up my lunch, and I'm just like eating my lunch, like minding my business, and I hear a male voice, and there were no men working in the office at the time. So I hear a male voice, so I'm thinking it's like one of the building guys or something like that.
Hmm.
And all I hear, like, I'm looking at my computer screen, I'm eating, and I hear, I couldn't surprise you any other way because you're so nosy. And I was just
Oh
like, and
my
I
God.
look over, and he's like walking towards me, and before I know it, he's like down on one knee, and I'm like literally like
Oh my God.
I'm mid garlic noodles. I had made some garlic noodles and spinach. I
Oh
remember
my
what I was eating
God.
that day, and I'm like mid
That's, of
garlic.
course, because you're like garlic. Oh my God. Yeah.
I'm like,
That's awesome.
I'm mid garlic noodles and spinach, and I'm like looking at him like, what are you
What? Yeah.
doing? So, and there
That's
were like two other people in the
awesome.
office who are actually my sorority sisters. And so they went into like
Oh my
phone mode. They went into like freaking out, like, what is happening? So he proposed at
Oh,
work,
I love
and
that.
I was just like, well, this isn't the most romantic place, but I am pretty nosy. So you had to
Yeah,
catch
he
me off
did
guard.
surprise you. Yeah, he pulled that off. He knew. He
He
knew.
pulled that off, and so it was super cool.
Oh,
I'm not a big diamonds girl or anything like that, but he like chose the perfect ring. It was like it looked just
oh,
very I don't know, just it looks very vintage. Like my wedding ring was like
hmm,
very vintage style. It was super, it was like the perfect
oh,
ring. And so yeah, he pulled it off. He pulled it off. And so we got
yeah.
married like 6 months later. We got married June of 2011.
Okay. Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's so. I love that. That's like I love a quick. My husband and I did that too. Like a quick, say a quick turnaround. These people that have like the long things. I'm like, oh, I'm like, we made the decision. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, for me it was
Yeah.
like, and we could, I actually told him, I was like, there's a place here called Stan Mansion in Chicago, and I don't know if they still do it, but
Mhm.
at the time they had like, you can do a package where you can get married like on Valentine's Day, and they gave you a certain number of
Mhm.
people you could invite and all these things, and I was like, do you want to do that? And he was just like, he was like, you say that now, he was like, but you would be mad because you would have to limit it so much. I was like, yeah, but I'm still not, like, we're not having a big wedding, right? Like I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not that person. I was like, we could have like a reception a year later or something, but
Hmm.
we waited a little longer. I still didn't have a big wedding. I had an outdoor wedding, which is what I wanted, but it was the
Hmm.
coldest day in June for me to get married at the Japanese
Oh,
garden.
ooh, that must have been beautiful though.
It was beautiful.
Beautiful.
It was beautiful, but it was
Oh,
cold.
at least you weren't sweating all over the place, so that's good.
Well, that's true.
Kind of better to be cold than sweating. Hmm.
That's true because my dress was
Yeah.
a crochet dress. I had a crochet wedding dress, so
Oh, wow.
yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool. Oh, I love that. I can just like picturing it all. That's so
Yeah.
awesome. That's a great
Very
story. That's a
non-traditional.
great
I'm a very
story.
non-traditional person in that way. So I was
Hmm.
like, I don't want a traditional wedding
Hmm.
dress. That's not my thing. I
Hmm.
actually flew to Atlanta. My dressmaker, my designer was in Atlanta, who did the dress, and
Really?
I actually flew to Atlanta for a day. We sketched it out. We bought the yarn. We
Oh,
literally had
wow.
breakfast, sketched out what I wanted, sketched out. I had one bridesmaid, my
Oh my
best friend
God.
from 5 years old. We
Mhm.
sketched it out at the restaurant. We went to Michael's. We picked out all the yarn that I wanted, and I
Wow.
flew back home.
That's insane. I love that. Oh my
Yeah.
God. When I was getting married, I went dress shopping one day, and it was
Mm-hmm.
like I like this part of this dress, this part of this dress, this part of this dress, and it ended up being something my mother actually made my dress,
Oh,
and it was the
I
same
love
kind of thing, like
that.
piecemealing like all the pieces that I liked out of each thing, and then she put them all together and made my dress for me. So
Yes, I love
yeah,
that.
yeah, which was cool,
That's
very
awesome.
cool.
Very cool.
Um, yeah, yeah, those special kind of the touches that are make it uniquely yours. That's
Mm-hmm.
very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Mine wasn't crochet though, I have to admit. It was
Listen,
it
that's
looked more
okay.
traditional.
That's okay.
That's
That's
okay. It
okay.
worked for me. It worked for me. Oh my God. And okay, so then you and so obviously he stayed in Chicago.
Yes. Yes. He stayed in
You guys didn't move.
Chicago.
Okay.
We did not
Mhm.
move. His daughter was in Maryland. And so he went out a couple times to see her, and
Mhm.
but yeah, so and the girls are 9 years apart, 9 years and 6 days. So their birthdays are
Oh
both
wow.
in March. I know, it's crazy. And
Oh
so
wow.
Simone was actually due on the same day as his oldest daughter.
Oh wow.
I know. I was
That's
like, let's not do
crazy.
that though.
Let's
So
not.
I was
That
like
could
very
create some issues.
hopeful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could create some things. So I was very hopeful. I was like,
Hmm.
please, please don't let this baby be
Hmm.
born on the same day. And then I ended up having to be
Okay.
induced, so that was fine. She
Okay.
wouldn't come. She wouldn't
All
come out
right.
at all. She didn't want to come out at all.
She's very comfortable. Hmm.
Yes.
She didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's cozy in there. It's cozy. Okay, so before we get into this is the great part of the story, but before we get into the not so great part of the story, I want you to think about like happiest, you're happy, what were some things that you just like were uniquely him that just made you like the happiest, like so glad he's yours?
That's good. This
I know I
is
didn't ask you that ahead of time. Get you comfortable
no,
about
that's
it.
okay. That's okay. So I think one of the things, it's such a quirk, but like he would start meeting my friends, and before he would leave, he would say, "Can I pray for you?" And at first, I was like weirded out by it. At first, I was just kind of like, "Sir,
Yeah.
you cannot go around just praying for everybody." But then, but then I said, "But why not?" Right?
Yeah.
Like,
I
and
mean, not it. He's not like pushing it on people. He's not
nope,
like you need to be praying.
nope.
Yeah. He's like, can I do this for you?
He's
Yeah.
like, "Can I do this for you?" And he would, and like every person was like, "Wow, I needed that because I was going through,
Hmm.
or like something was
Ooh,
happening."
so maybe he sensed it. Yeah.
And that was the thing.
Wow.
He had a very, like his relationship with God was very much like, I'm in tune with God. I hear what I'm supposed
Hmm.
to hear, and so I act
Hmm.
on that. And so I think that that was definitely something very unique that at first I did not appreciate, but I learned to love and learn to
Hmm.
appreciate and learn to,
Yeah.
just allow him to be in that way. So it was like really sweet
Hmm.
and really special. And then I just used to laugh at him because sometimes he would, I don't know, like we have DuSable Lakeshore Drive here in Chicago, which is right along the lakefront and is a drive that you take. And
Okay.
so a lot of people here, if people need to clear their minds, that's kind of what they're doing. They're like, I'm going to drive along
Oh,
DuSable
okay.
Lakeshore Drive, right?
Hmm.
And so he would kind of like, sometimes we would get in the car and just take a drive and kind of be quiet and
Hmm.
both kind of be wherever with our thoughts, and it was just a
Yeah.
sweet time. I just really appreciate those kind of things.
That is sweet.
Yeah.
That is sweet because most times when you're quietly with someone, it's like it's like awkward silence that you have to feel like you have to fill. And if you're
Hmm.
so comfortable with someone that you can just be, there aren't very many people you can do that with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is
so
beautiful.
I
Hmm.
appreciate that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, bring us up to 2014. What happened?
Yeah, some days I'm like, what did happen? How, like,
Did happen.
what did
Yeah.
happen? So oddly enough, when we're recording this video, it's spring break. It's not the same month
Hmm.
that it happened, but my daughter, I just remember in 2014, she was on spring break. Her child care closed the same time that our public school system did.
Hmm.
So my mom and I took my daughter and one of my friend's daughters to the Children's Museum, like any other regular, it's
Yeah.
spring break. Let's hang out. Let's the
Right.
kids
Do
do
fun
the kid
things. Yeah.
things, right? And
Mhm.
that morning, Paul and I had woken up, and he was actually really excited about life. Like he had gone back to school for some IT things.
Mhm.
He wanted to get some certifications in IT specifically so that he can do some different things in his career. So he was really excited about that. We attended a church together that he was just excited to find different ways to like get more involved in church. Simone had just turned 2 years old the prior month, so we were like, we were in this, and his older
Yeah.
daughter was doing well in Maryland, so it felt good. Like
Mhm.
everything just kind of felt
Yeah.
like,
Life was good.
yeah,
Hmm.
we were on a path, and we were like excited about what was happening.
Hmm.
Paul was an avid tennis player. So he was like, all
Okay.
right, while you all are at the museum, I'm going to go play tennis for a little bit, hang out. Cool, sounds great. We made an additional stop. I can't remember where we were going after we left the Children's Museum. And he called me and he was just like, yeah, he goes, I'm having some kind of cramp. I don't feel that great. And I was just like, okay. I was like, where are you? He's like, I'm still at the tennis court. And he rode his bike to where he went to play tennis. So he was like, I'm
Okay.
gonna ride the bike back home. I'll be okay, but just didn't feel that great. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, do you need to do anything else?
Hmm.
Is there something else? He's like, no. He's like, I should be fine. I'll probably, I'll see you at home a little later. Cool. So
Okay.
we get home. We're waiting for my friend's daughter to get picked up. So we kind of hang out downstairs for a little bit. And my mom's like, "Do you want me to come up?" And I was just like, "No, we should be fine." And when I get in the house, there's stairs in my home that you have to come into the main part. And his backpack was there. And I was like, oh, he's home already.
Mm-hmm.
So I get up the stairs and I go to the bedroom and he's laying down. And I was just like, you okay? And he was like, yeah, I'll be fine. He goes, I think I just need to rest. And so I say this in the TEDx talk that I do, but I literally was like, you need Gatorade? You need a banana? Like, right? Like I'm doing the whole
Yeah.
like, you got a cramp?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
he's just like, I don't know. And I was like, well, what happened on the tennis court? And he goes, I don't know. He goes, I just kind of got a cramp and I stopped. They thought I was playing, like joking around, but I was just like, no, something's really wrong. And I was just like, okay. And so the rest of the evening, this was around 4 p.m., 5 p.m. maybe.
Okay.
And so usually in our house, like I cooked dinner, Paul would clean up the dishes, and he would put Simone down. It was just like that was
Okay.
kind of the routine that we had created. And so I was like, I'll cook dinner, I'll clean up the kitchen, don't worry. And he was just like, okay, but he didn't get up to eat. He was like, no, I'm not really hungry. And as I was cleaning up the kitchen, he got up and he was like, I'll give Simone a bath and get her down. I was like, you sure? He was like, yeah, I'm sure. I was like, okay. So he does all of that, gets in bed. It's about 10 o'clock. I'm just like, all right, I'm going to lay down. And he's like, all right. But he had put his head to the foot of the bed. And I was just like, okay, that's different, but okay. He just probably just got in bed and was like, let me just lay down. And
Yeah.
so he laid down. I gave him a kiss on the cheek. I got in the bed. I was like, I hope you feel better in the morning. He was like, I should. I'll be fine. And about an hour later, I hear Simone's little feet coming down the hallway. I'm like, uh-oh, here we go. Here's the little chica, getting out of her bed. And she climbs in the bed. And so usually if she did that, Paul would get up and be like, nope, come on, little girl. Like, let's go back to your bed. And he didn't move. I didn't really think much of it. But Simone kept like stirring and moving. And I'm like, what is happening? Mama just wants some sleep. Like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And she just kept moving. And so I go to push Paul, like I pushed him, and there was no give. Like it was just stiff. And
Oh my God.
I remember like my heart jumped out. Like I just remember being like, and I grabbed my phone. I put on the flashlight feature because in my mind, it's so crazy how many things like go on in your mind at the moment, and how my brain is racing because I'm like, protect Simone, don't turn on too much light because she like, right, like I'm like, protect her, but I need to see if something is happening. Okay, but if something is happening, what do I do first? Do I remember how to do CPR? Like these are all the things that are going on through my head.
Wow.
And I look at the time and it's like 11:15, which means I've only been laying down for an hour. So I'm like, there's no way. I just talked to him an hour ago.
Yeah.
He just said words to me an hour ago. So I grab my phone, I turn on the flashlight, and I look in his face, and it's lifeless.
Oh my God.
It's lifeless. And so I'm like, this did not just happen. I'm like,
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So I'm like breathing, like I'm like consciously telling myself to breathe. I call 911. I call my parents. And then I was like I know my parents. And so I was just like, I need somebody here who can like take charge, who can like handle things.
Yes.
And so one of my girlfriends who wasn't married, no kids, I called her. And the craziest thing is, this is like funny when you think about it, not funny in the moment, but she was just like, she's like, oh my God, I thought it was a domestic issue and I thought I was going to have to beat his ass. Like she was just like,
Yeah.
because all I said was
Oh
like,
my God.
all I said was like, get here. I need you to get to my house now.
Yeah.
So she's just no idea like what's happening.
Her brain's going with all the things that could be going on. Yeah.
Yeah, so she gets there and she's not
Wow.
knowing what she's walking into or what to expect. So that was
Yeah,
like,
because nobody's expecting that you're going to say he's gone. Yeah. No one's expecting that.
not at all.
Wow.
Like, not a health issue in sight. He had just
Right.
gone to the doctor within, let's see, he passed in April, so he'd gone to the doctor like July, August, somewhere around there.
Hmm.
As
His
far as I
annual
know, yeah, as
thing.
far as I know, it was everything was normal. He didn't tell me otherwise. So
Uh,
yeah, so we're not expecting any of that, right? Like we're just like, okay, this is what it is. And so when I always tell people I think the worst part, even aside from like recognizing and seeing like my husband is not breathing, the worst part
mm,
was the fire department. Like they all came in, they rushed to they're like, where's the bedroom? Blah blah blah. They rushed to the back, and I'm standing in my living room holding my 2-year-old, who's silent, by the way, Pam, who hasn't said
wow.
a word. She hasn't screamed. She hasn't cried. She
Wow.
hasn't. She is silent. And I was like, this is very interesting.
Wow.
What's happening here?
Yeah, she
She
sensed
knew.
all of the stuff.
She knew. She knew.
Yeah.
I honestly, I tell people all the time, and it sounds a little woo woo, but I say all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I say, when Paul gave her that last bath, I strongly believe
Mm-hmm.
that he felt that this was it, the end was near for him. And I always say that
Mm-hmm.
his spirit came out of him and went directly into her.
Oh, wow.
And I strongly
Wow.
believe that he gave her some words that I'll never know what they were.
Yeah.
But there's just there's no way that a 2-year-old is just like very alert, but very
Mm-hmm.
calm and very like
Yeah.
just looking around at all the things that are happening, but never said a word. She
Mm-hmm.
did not say a word until I feel like it was hours later, and I was like, I just can't hold her anymore. My mom was like, what do you need? And she was just like,
Mm-hmm.
Grandma. Like, that was it. But like, other than that, she's just like holding on to me. And just, I was like, whew,
Yeah,
okay.
which by the way is like so unusual too, because with all that happening, typically a 2-year-old would be crying or something because there's a lot of activity, a lot of heightened emotion. Like
A lot of
that would
strangers, the firemen that
a
are
lot of
coming into our
strangers.
house.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that
it
would be
was
like
a lot. It was a
wow.
lot. And
And if you think about, I mean, which I'm sure you have, like I'm totally am like on board with you with that spirit transfer because she came to the room. She was fidgety. Like she knew. She knew. Like there's a reason she
yeah,
came to the room. There's a
even
reason
before
why
that's
she
that
settled
part,
down.
right? So
Yeah.
that it wasn't like so that I wouldn't stay in this position all night, because that brings about a different,
Yes.
right? Like, what time did he pass? When did he
Yes. A
happen?
whole different.
How long? Blah blah blah. But it's
Mhm.
like, I know that finitely within 1 hour. Now I don't know if it was 5 minutes
Yeah.
after I laid down or if it was 50 minutes after I laid down, but I
Right.
definitely know from 10 to 11,
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
the 1 hour window that we have. So, but yeah, the hardest part was
Mhm.
the firemen coming in. They went to the back, trying to revive him, and they literally, this is the worst thing in the world. They're literally coming. I have a long hallway, so they're literally coming down the hallway, and you hear those steps, right? One after the other, these heavy
Mm.
boots, and no one's saying anything to me.
Yeah.
No one's looking at me. They're like head down,
Mm.
and they're just walking, walking,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have to walk downstairs to get out. Like this whole dramatic like thing.
Oh my
And
God.
then
Yeah.
finally, I guess at the end, it was the fire chief who comes over and he's like, "Ma'am, I'm so sorry for your loss."
Wow.
And I'm still holding Simone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even sure if my parents are there yet. Like, I don't even know else was in the house at this point. But he's
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry for your loss. And I just remember, like a movie, like a horror movie. I
Hmm.
just remember bellowing out, like, just like yelling, like,
My God. Yeah.
no. And that's the
Oh my
worst.
God.
Like, I vividly hear the boots. I can see it in my
Hmm.
mind. The memory I have, and it's just like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Like, my life
Again,
was
what
not
just
supposed to
happened? Yeah.
change like this. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy. All of it. It's such a, I don't even know. It's like a crazy story. Also, there's a kind of a cool part of it with your daughter, with Simone, and that whole, her role in it. That's kind of, I mean, cool. Is cool a dumb word? I don't know. That's like, I just think it's very special. Like that whole,
It's fascinating
whatever
for
happened with
sure,
them.
right? Like, it's
Fascinating.
fascinating.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. She doesn't have any memories of any of that, or does she? No.
No.
Yeah.
Because it took like her, it was about 3 weeks, and she never asked, like, where's daddy? But
Mm.
after about 3 weeks, she just said, Mommy, I want my daddy.
Oh, wow.
And that's when I
Oh.
knew for sure. Like, I had kind of
Hmm.
sensed it before, but of course with everything going on and just like the panic, the shock, the all the
Hmm.
emotions that were running through, I didn't really have time to process it. But when her first was not like, where's daddy, or
Hmm.
why hasn't daddy come back,
Yeah.
but it was just like, I want my daddy, I miss my daddy. I was
Oh.
like, oh honey, oh honey.
Hmm. Mm. That's
Yeah.
so awful.
Yeah.
Sweet girl. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh.
But
Um.
somehow, Pam, we made it through.
Mhm. Yeah. As we do. And I want to get into all of the things that I mean, what you've done has been so impressive. And I think that your book, which I have right here, Bounce Back, it's, it's so awesome. And it's called The Art of the Bounce Back, 31 Days of Resilient Living. And I mean, you just said we get through. Not everybody gets through. Not everybody gets through successfully. People survive, right? Not necessarily thrive. Um, and I think so much of that does go back. Part of it, I believe, goes back to how willing you are to consciously heal,
Yep.
right? Choose to heal.
Yep.
And some people just live in that state of grief and loss and pain.
Yep.
Maybe they don't know how or don't have the resources to heal. But I do think I've said this. I have a psychology background, and I'm like, if I were in college now, and I've said this, so it's so, I mean, you and I discovered we have so many similarities. But I've said this for years because I'm fascinated by resilience. And I would love, if I were in college now, I would literally choose to do a study on the nature nurture part of that. Like, are you born with
With her.
some level of resilience so you're more inclined to develop it more fully? Or is it fully a learned behavior? There's so much, I'm fascinated by it. So, first of all, before we get into all the things, what are your thoughts on that with all of that you've done in that whole field of resilience?
Yeah. I get into these conversations about resilience with people so often. And first and
Mm-hmm.
foremost, we are super aligned. I think it's a choice. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think you choose to navigate grief and loss. And I
Yeah.
think you choose to see the glass half empty or half full. and you
Hmm.
choose optimism. You choose it
Yes,
because
I agree.
otherwise
Oh.
you stay in this place that that you just get stuck. You get stuck in a way that you're not
Hmm.
sure how to go about making the next moves. And early on, maybe even the next day, or definitely within a couple of days of Paul's passing, one of my aunts was like, Paul died. You didn't die. You're still here.
Wow.
And
Best
in the,
advice you probably could have.
yeah, but not well received a few days after your husband dies, though.
Oh, true, true. Yeah, because that can be a really raw thing.
Not well
That
received a
you're
few
right.
days after your husband died.
Hmm.
Looking
Yeah.
back on it, I reference it all the time now because she was
Hmm.
right. She
Yeah.
was absolutely right in like Paul lost his life, but that does
Hmm.
not mean that I lose my sense of being or I lose my sense of life.
Hmm.
So now it's time for me to step up. So I do wonder sometimes, I do ask myself the question like, are we born with it? Is it something that we have in us? And
Yeah.
like part of me says, well, we have to be born with it, right? Because we go from being in the womb all comfortable and cozy to like out into this
Hmm.
world where like we're like, what is happening around us?
True. What is
Right?
happening?
So, like,
Yeah,
what's going on?
that's
Who are
true.
all these people ooh and eyeing over me? Who are all these, like, and if there was a traumatic, if there was I had Simone via C section, right? So, like,
Hmm.
that was traumatic. Her umbilical cord was wrapped around her. They had to, like, quickly get that from around her
Hmm.
and quickly get her into a space. That is resilience. Now, we don't call it that for
Yeah,
babies, you know,
right. True. But
but
yeah, it is. Hmm.
like that's what it is. So, and because we all grow up in different homes with different value systems and different ways of living and different ways of experiencing the world, like we have to navigate so many different things before we even get out of our parents' house, if we get out of our parents' house at 18. Like, there's
Yeah.
so much that
Yeah.
comes along with that. So I
So
don't
much.
know. I think it's something that we have in us. I think it's something that we see based on the people that are around us and how they navigate life.
Hmm.
And so that's part of the reason why like I show up in the world the way that I do. It is like y'all, we already have all the tools and things that we need. We just need to remind ourselves, or we need to be in
Hmm.
community to nurture it and help support it so that we can
Yeah.
navigate. Doesn't mean that you're not going to go face tough times. I faced other tough times post Paul's passing. That was a very much a tongue twister post Paul's passing, but
Triple P. Uh-huh. Oh my God.
but it's like, how do we navigate that and recognize that, we can't control
Mhm.
what we can't control?
Well, I think that's right. I do think that there is some level of resilience. And I remember reading one of those books about, those horrible books about, children that are massively abused or, I can't remember the exact story right now, but there was a story about, the kids that were like chained to their bunk beds and, just terrible, terrible stories of abuse that you look at. I remember this one family in particular that like one child in that family went on to be a public speaker and authored a book and did all these things, and then several of the others are like addicts, and all these bad things are happening. And I mean, that was one of the times I'm like, same exact circumstances, same exact family, same totally effed up situation, and one is here and one is here. So I really have thought so much about resilience. And I think one of the things that you said, like we are all I think probably we all are born with the ability to have resilience. So maybe the things like you're saying, community, or having, a book like yours teaches people how to tap into
Mm-hmm.
the tools
Mm-hmm.
to activate that resilience. So
Yes.
maybe it's
Yes.
just buried so deeply, and some people, they don't even know how to activate it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so talk to me about, share with us like how this came to be. Like, it's a very cool story. It's a cool way that the story came to be, actually. So, yeah, share that with us.
Yeah, so that it is a crazy, crazy thing. So a couple of crazy things that happened is I was one of the folks that I spoke at Paul's funeral. And even in getting up, and speaking at his funeral, I recognized that this, that like his death wasn't just for me. It wasn't, for me to experience. It was definitely for me to share in some way with the world, right? And of course, I hadn't figured out what that meant or what that looked like. And so, the first year anniversary of his death, I actually gave a talk. I don't remember what that one was called. I don't know if it still had something to do with resilience, but it wasn't the art of the bounce back. Like, it was something else. And so I gave a talk, and I remember feeling all kinds of like, I felt in some instances I was kind of all over the place, not really clear about what I was saying. I felt in some instances, I was a nervous wreck. Who does that? Who does, like, on the first year anniversary
Yeah.
of your husband's death, like, you want to
Yeah.
invite people to talk about how you've navigated the last year? I don't know, a little crazy, but did it anyway.
No, it's amazing. Yeah.
Um, and then a couple years after that, I, was still trying to find, I had done a couple of virtual grief support groups. I had done some other things, but still trying to find where my voice really landed. And so I was just like, everybody was just like, you got to do video on social media. If you want to get the message out to the masses, you got to do video. And I was like, ugh, video, like, I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
But it was I believe it was December of 2019, and I said, all right, I'm gonna force myself. I'm gonna do 60 to 90-second videos every day, and I'm gonna post them. And it was all about things that I had been, like, how I had activated my resilience, right? It was all about things
Okay.
that I had done on my own to just kind of navigate this grief thing. Like, how do I get through this? How do I navigate? And so I did that, and I was in a mastermind at the top of the beginning of the next year, and the coach said she's queen of repurposing. She's like, how do you repurpose content? How do you, like, use stuff and use it in a different way? And so we were talking, and I was just like, I was like, I just want a book, a pocket-sized book for people to, like, carry around with them and talk about resilience, wherever they are. And we repurposed my videos that I uploaded for 31 days. I had them transcribed before AI was the cool thing for everybody to be using and talking about AI.
Took a little
I
more work than that.
Listen, I had AI transcribe my videos and turned it into a book, and I got an editor, and we still wanted, like, my voice, because I didn't want it to
Yeah.
read. It was never meant to read like it's not meant to read like a novel. It's meant to read in
Right.
my voice. It's meant to be very
Right.
conversational, and to give folks, like, a little bit of practice strategy at the end. It's meant to read like a devotional, where you read a chapter each day, and you actually go do the practice, and it's meant to
Yeah.
be repeatable, that you do it over and over again, that you could do it solo or with community. And that was born. Art of the Bounce Back was born in that way. And I wanted it to be something that I didn't want it to feel heavy, where it felt like a grief book. I wanted it to feel very
Yeah.
much like a how do you get back to your happy book.
Yeah. You nailed it, first of all. I have, like, things that are like, it's so funny because, again, we have so much in common, and maybe we're not exactly using the same words in some places, but just in your introduction, I have a whole thing marked because you put, simply put, it's your ability to bounce back from challenges that life throws your way. It's you getting back up when you fall down, even when the odds seem stacked against you. Do you know that one of my theme songs, whenever life throws me shit, is that song by Tub Thumping, the I get knocked down and I get up
and I get
again.
back in.
And that is, like, my theme song. Every time something goes bad, where I'm like, life sucks so bad, I'm like, oh, play your song. You got this. You play your song. And so I like literally laughed out loud when I saw that because I was like, that's my song. That was like from the jump in the intro. But
Oh, I love
I just
it.
love it. I love like every single topic, like day one, resilience is a muscle. You got to work it out. You got to get in the gym and work that
Do
muscle.
those
And, you know,
reps
and that's
over and over
right. Do it. And
again.
then
Yeah.
yeah, and then it goes right into it's your mindset and it goes to what you just said. Like you choose. You choose. I remember well, I've always done this and sometimes and I've said it on this podcast before. Sometimes I can admit that sometimes I use this and it can come across as a defense mechanism, right? I say I believe things can always be worse because they can. They can always be worse.
Yep.
I have a roof over my head. I don't have to worry about how I'm paying the bills. Things could be a lot worse. Do I wish my husband were here? Yes. Does it sometimes really freaking suck? Yes. But things can always be worse. And I told this story recently. It's terrible, but it is terrible, but it's a dramatic example of that. And I remember right after my husband died, I was talking to someone, and they said, "Well, like how are you doing? Like how are you doing?" That whole question that I hate, and they just caught me at a moment, and I was like, and it was. When all of the stuff was happening in Syria, so the whole news was filled with that. And I said, well, I'm not being raped every day in a Syrian refugee camp, so it could be worse. Like that was a dramatic response for that moment. I was probably just feeling extra salty, which I know I was, but
Yeah.
could be worse. And so I know sometimes I don't manage my own emotions about things happening because I focus too much on could be worse, like suck it up, buttercup. But there is that piece, in so many circumstances. I mean, go back to the example I just used of the kids being chained to their bunk beds and living like animals. We're not doing that, There's a lot of really terrible things out there in the world, and it can always be worse. And I'm also a super firm believer that in any obstacle you're given, you can find a silver lining if you look hard enough. Like you can find it.
My tagline for years is obstacle to opportunity, right? Literally, I would be like, from obstacle, the number 2 opportunity, like everything. What is the opportunity in whatever the obstacle was that we found, right? And it is, yes, it can always be worse. I agree with that. I think that that's wholeheartedly. And even in my widow story, and some people may not consider it worse per se, but it is definitely a different challenge to have 1 kid versus having 4 kids, or being pregnant when your spouse dies, or like navigating all of these different things. And so I have just come to the mindset and making sure that as I communicate with people, in recognizing that your story is your story, but what you choose to do, but you don't have your story just for you. I still strongly believe that we don't have our stories just for us. So that's why the Lost Love Stories podcast exists, right? So that other people can hear the stories. I've been on other podcasts who reaching audiences that I would never probably reach, but then people, will send me an email and say, I heard you on such and such, and do you do this? Or I'm so glad to have found you. And that's why we're here. That's why we have the mediums that we use to get stories out. That is why we have to continue to share what's happening, because someone feels like it is their worst and they're not sure how to navigate and how to get out of it. Well, guess what? Pam and Elle are telling you how to do it, right? Because we've done it. We've used the pain that we had to suffer and turned it into something else. And whoever is meant to hear that from the one of us, from both of us, from the
Right.
tribe of, or whatever, are the
Yeah.
people that are meant to hear that. And so it may
Hmm.
not be that they have a widow story, but they may still be navigating something, and they're like, but I don't know how to be resilient. Well, guess what? I'm telling you how. Like,
That's right.
right? Like,
That's right. Work
I'm
the muscle.
giving you the principles for you to
Yeah.
activate, for you to get to that next part. And I know it's challenging. I know people have such a hard
Yeah.
time, and especially in this current day and time, like here we are in 2026 living in a way in the world that we just did not expect.
Yeah. And yes, and it can feel especially hopeless right now for women, for people of color, for so many people in the population. It feels hopeless. It's like you're coming from behind the eight ball, and then a new challenge comes, personal challenge, and you have the global challenge, and then you have your personal right in your house challenge. It can feel like, holy hell, like what more can I take? And that it is a very it's a really, really hard time
Yeah.
for so many people.
Yeah.
So I think this is an especially important topic right now. So it's always important, but I think it's especially important right now because there there are a lot of people who are feeling really hopeless right now, and if they can figure out, we can all figure out how to take whatever the circumstance that we're living in, and tap into those resources within us and figure out how to find the silver linings, how to find
Yeah.
the opportunity in the obstacle, and then you know do something good in the world. And I swear, it's most of my motive. I always say my people ask me all the time, even from when it was like my boys were diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, like how do you do what you do? I'm like, it's all selfishly motivated, if I'm being honest. Like I'm doing it. Then it was like doing it to save my boys. Now it's like, I don't know, maybe it's to save me. I don't know. But I just know that taking your own circumstance and putting good out into the world, it does make me feel better. And it makes me feel like what you just said. If one person hears what we're talking about and it helps them in any way, it doesn't matter. It's worth all the time I put in to all of this. It really is. Like that's how I truly feel. I'm
Yeah,
sure
it's
it's the
like
same with
that.
you.
Yeah, it's that saying, and I do talk about this in the book also, but it's the saying around when you feel like you don't have any friends, to be a friend, right? So when you
Yeah.
feel that everything around you is crumbling, or it feels down, it's
Hmm.
like give a hand out, go help
Hmm.
someone else in need, reach out to someone else, because then it allows you to reflect and think about life in a different way, where you're not solely like going through your own like pity party or of what's
Yeah.
happening. And it's not to say that what you're going through is not excuse me, is not difficult, but it is to say that you're not the only one going through things.
Right.
And when you
Yeah.
recognize that we all are navigating something, and it may not be the same thing, but we're all
Yes.
navigating something, when you're able to connect and support someone else who is also navigating something, then it gives you a different perspective. And I think we all need some perspective
Yes.
shifting in lots of different ways.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I shared this with you when we chatted previously, but when I was feeling like my own sense of hopelessness, and mostly I don't think if it was even hopelessness, but it was joylessness.
Mm-hmm.
And after John died, he died in November, and it was I went on a service trip to Honduras, like on a path to reclaim joy. Like that was why I went. It was going to rural Honduras that I didn't know anybody going. I knew one person. I hadn't seen him in years. We talked, but who organized the trip, and he's the one that just kept saying, "You need to come on this trip." And I did, and it was literally because I remember the moment where I was like, "I have no joy. I don't know how to find joy again," and
Mm-hmm.
it was truly like I'm going on this journey to rural Honduras to try to find some joy in my life again. And it
Mm-hmm.
was perspective. It was getting out of my bubble here, even though it felt like my bubble had burst and it was,
Bursted. Yeah.
not, yeah. going to a place where people literally have nothing. Nothing. They live in shanties. They have dirt floors. They don't have clean water to drink. They don't have, toilets to go to the bathroom in. And they're still filled with joy. And they're the biggest smiles on their face. Let me tell you, that added perspective to my life. And I joke. I mean, I said I feel like I was the Grinch. I felt like my heart grew 3 sizes on the very first day. It like shattered open. I was like, there's the joy. There it is. I see it in their faces, and they have nothing. You know, Look at all that I have. Like what? Again, perspective. It's perspective.
Yeah. No, I have a very
Yeah.
similar experience. In grad school, I went to NYU for grad school, but I studied social work, and we had a program that we could go to Puerto Rico, and
Uh-huh.
went to Puerto Rico, and there was a small little town that we went to, and very similar. Those kids, they were kids that were in an orphanage, and let me tell you, these babies, you talk about the biggest, brightest smiles on their face, and they didn't have electricity, they didn't have running water. It got dark at like 5 o'clock, and like all of these things that they did not have, but they were so happy, so joyful. And when I look at those pictures of that time, I was just, I knew then, like, it is all about your perspective. You can be happy in the direst of straits, but it's all about how you choose to see life. And so I'm thankful for that. I learned that at 22, 23 years old.
Wow.
And I'm super
Wow.
grateful because it prepared me for becoming a widow at 36.
I
Right?
think so. I really do.
It absolutely did. It
Yeah.
absolutely prepared
Yeah.
me to become a widow at 36 with a 2-year-old. Because had that experience not happened, or some other experiences, I may have been like, because people are like, oh, well, you didn't have a choice, you had a daughter. Of course, I still had a choice. I still didn't have to get out of bed every day. I had family, I had
Yeah, plenty of
friends.
people
Like,
do that.
they would have
Yep.
they would have figured it out if I
Picked
couldn't.
her up and taken care of her. Yeah. Yep.
But,
Yeah.
you
That's
know,
so true.
so it is, we have to look at all of the experiences and pull them together, and like really learn how to just use those as our fuel and navigate them. Though that's how you use the resilience muscle. Like, that's what you do.
Yeah. I think that's so true. It is. Well, what about talk to me about the Ellevate Group? Like how did that come to be and what do you do? I know you do a lot of public speaking, so
Yeah.
yeah.
So interestingly enough, not long after I met Paul in 2009, so maybe a year and a half after we had known each other, I got laid off. I started my
Mm-hmm.
career with Boys and Girls Clubs of Chicago. I was in the youth development sector, loved the work that I did until the very end. We got a CEO who thought my role should be something different, who did not come in my opinion, with the best intentions for the organization. I got laid off, and I was like, okay, whatever. Like, life goes on, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I had a few
Yeah.
other instances before Paul passing that
Yeah.
tested my
Chances to work the
resilience.
resilience
Yeah,
muscle.
yeah, they tested my resilience. And so
Uh-huh.
I didn't know what was fully going to be next for me, but I had a friend or a mentor who had started her own organization, and she was a previous supervisor while I was working at Boys and Girls Clubs, and she asked me that summer to design a youth program for her. She had founded a workforce development agency, and they were primarily focused on adults, but she wanted to add a youth component. And so I did that, and I like got this taste of like freedom for like, I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute. I was like, this is what it's like to like work for yourself,
Yeah.
and get the work done when you want to get it done, and just make sure you get the finished product. I was like, I like this. I like this a lot.
Yeah.
I like this a lot.
Uh-huh. Good, good.
So I started doing some other independent work, and I was still doing independent consulting work when Paul passed. And after that, I had gone back to work for a little bit for an organization, but that was short lived. And I just was like, I need to just lean into this notion
Mm-hmm.
of, working for myself and really formalizing it. So in 2016, I officially incorporated the Ellevate Group. So April of this year, we marked 10 years in business. Hey, super
Yay.
exciting. I know. So 10
Awesome.
years in business, and what started as me doing grant writing for organizations, for nonprofit organizations. That's how I really started. That's the primary work that
Okay.
I did, has turned into leadership development and like building the capacity of
Mm-hmm.
organizations to have leadership pipelines. I was a middle manager who advocated for myself and understood the importance of my
Mm-hmm.
professional development. There are lots of middle managers who don't understand that their growth
Yeah.
trajectory is bottled up because they are a middle manager and they're not necessarily getting the skills that they need. And so that is where we come in. We do training and professional development to make sure that we are building the next leaders of nonprofit organizations so that they can continue their impact. And I love that work. I wholeheartedly
Love
enjoy
it.
all of
Mm-hmm.
that we do there. And so I speak on the intersection of, it's either leadership or resilience. Those are my two lanes
Mm-hmm.
that I have honed in on and that I have expertise in. And I love it. Like it's what we do. It's, so whenever
That's so
I
good.
speak, it's about one or both, right?
Mm-hmm.
Either
I was
leadership
gonna
or
say, you can
resilience
build strong
or
leadership. Yeah, with you become a resilient person, you will hone the
listen.
leadership skills.
You need
Yeah,
some resilience and leadership in all the ways.
that's for sure. Yeah. That's amazing. My second child went to military school for 5 years, and one of the things that was so great about that is they used to say over and over and over again, like the leadership skills that they were teaching at the school is so necessary because especially now, people that like there's nothing in school or anything that teaches leadership, but leadership is so needed. And there's just like this big void of it
Why are
right
we
now.
missing the mark, Pam? Why are we missing the mark? I don't
Yeah.
understand. Yeah. And we
Yeah.
expect people to
Like
come
that would
in
be
and we
such a cool thing.
say, yeah, we expect people to come in and say, "Oh, you don't have leadership skills." Well, I'm sorry. Where was I supposed to learn
Mhm.
those? Like
Right.
yes, you learn
Right.
them in high school by getting involved in clubs and you learn them in college
Right.
in some of those ways, but really having an understanding of what it means to work with people and to build and hone in on the
Hmm.
skills that's needed to operate in so many different facets of the world. Like,
Totally.
so yeah. So I
Yeah.
love it. I enjoy it a great
I love it
deal.
too. It's so important.
Yeah. So
So
yeah,
important. And
that's my work.
I love the title of it. I love it. And it's, I mean, it's really so important. And I will say, just because maybe you were president of your class or even, any vice president or secretary of a class, it doesn't mean you learned leadership skills. It just means you were
In
leading. So
charge.
it really is. I think yes, in charge. I think that there's a big part of that is like resilience. You can be taught, and probably some of us have. There's probably plenty of people who don't have. People are natural. There are people who are natural leaders that it
Yes,
just
for
comes
sure.
more naturally to. But everyone can hone the skill, and even the most natural of the naturals can be better and be
Yeah.
taught because you can be a natural leader but lead people in not the greatest ways. So
Yep.
that's
We see it
also
every single day.
we sure do. We sure do.
Every single day.
So I love that. And obviously obviously it brings you great joy because the
Yeah.
joy from the cover of your book, which I find so joyous. But you radiate joy. You actually really do radiate joy. You
Aw,
can
thank
just
you.
tell that you are living a joy-filled life, and I think that's that's like so cool to have found a path for yourself that you were already finding it before Paul died, but then to like really grab a hold of it and just take it next level. Because I mean, I'm not saying, because I've seen this over and over with the people who really use their grief as a growth mechanism. Like you can
Mm-hmm.
grow through your grief, but that
Absolutely.
requires the healing, that requires doing the work
Yeah.
to work through that grief. And then what it gives you for potential in in resilience, in leadership,
Mm-hmm.
just in healing and self-care. There's so much that goes into that.
Yeah,
But then
for
the
sure.
beauty that can come on the other side. And you can see that you've really latched onto the beauty of the growth and are doing so many great things that are
Thank you.
impactful in the world and big things that the world needs more of. So thank you for all that you do, for
Listen, I
sure.
made a promise
Um,
I made a promise that when Paul passed, I think that he died with too many things on the inside of him. And my
mm,
promise to God was anything you give me, I will put it out. So
oh, wow.
even when it doesn't feel succinct with other people, or when it doesn't feel like,
Hmm.
what is she doing now? That doesn't have anything to do with the Ellevate Group, or that doesn't have anything to do
Yeah.
with resilience or whatever. Even when it feels misaligned to everyone else, it is aligned to me. And
Hmm.
so it's like, if God has
Yeah.
given me an idea or something to do, then I'll do it. This is one of those things. I like designed a coloring book, um,
Mm.
and it literally was just kind of a, like, I was testing like AI images and like doing some stuff, and just wanted to
Uh-huh.
put something together, and it came to be. And I was like, it doesn't make sense to anybody
Wow.
else, but I love it. And
But it is. I love it. I love
yeah.
coloring books too. But it's so funny because I think we talked about this. I hesitate and I don't I grew up Catholic and I joke that I gave it up for Lent and it's the only time I stuck to Lent
Still,
was
yeah.
giving that up. And I'm very spiritual, but I'm not religious. And so I use different words, but I know they all mean the same thing. It's God or the universe or spirit or angels or whatever it is, whatever you call it. But I say my prayers. I don't know. I still have this little in my gut that I just have a harder time saying prayer and God and all that stuff. But I say spirit and the universe, and
Mm-hmm.
in what you're getting your messages from God, I literally say to the universe, just like help me stay open to your guidance, help me stay open to your downloads. I say downloads a lot. Like I feel like I get these downloads from the universe, from out there, that is like, now do this, now do this, now do this. And if I could just stay open to it, just like you, like it might not make any sense with what I'm doing, but I feel like I feel like the more open I stay to all of that, my life is full of what I've now said. My whole life has always been like a spinny, high achieving, where
Mm-hmm.
I'm like running to catch up. I feel like now, when I've very consciously made that, like, please help me stay open to your guidance. Help me stay open to the messages that I need to make the biggest impact,
Yeah.
do the greatest good. I say, help me do the greatest good. Show me, help me stay open to it.
Yeah.
And life has gone from a high anxiety, like spinning feeling, to just a place of ease and flow, because it doesn't feel hard. It
Mm-hmm.
feels easy. It feels natural. It feels like what I'm supposed to be doing, even
Yeah.
though your plate is as full as mine. Like because I feel like the things just keep coming.
They
And
keep
I'm like, okay,
coming.
now I'll do that. Now I'll do that. Now I'll
Listen.
do that. And it doesn't feel like that though anymore. It doesn't feel like, it feels like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll go make a coloring book. Fine, sure. That's good. It's just
I'm
awesome.
like, I'm like,
It's
whatever. this is what this is what it
whatever.
is. Like, keep it moving, because
Yeah.
no moment is promised, and so I'm gonna keep leaving my mark however I can.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, you have shared so many awesome little pearls of really important wisdom today. I'm so happy that you joined us. I'm so happy. See, without this podcast, I never would have met you. And now I'm just like, you're like a treasure in my life. So I am I'm grateful to the universe for the podcast download because it led me to you. So
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
awesome. Um, I will put all of your stuff, like all if people want to work with you, listen to your TED talk, buy your book. All of that stuff will be all in the show notes. But is there anything else that we didn't cover that you wanted to talk about or shout out or any final
Oh,
thoughts that
yes.
might
How
be
could I
well?
almost forgot? We cannot forget this spam. So we didn't talk a lot
Yeah.
about it together, but we do
Uh-huh.
have to talk about the lost love name because
Yes.
I'm
Oh my
like,
God.
wait a minute. So, one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that's so cool about coming across Pam and the Lost Love Stories podcast is I created a widow storytelling exhibit, also called The Lost Love.
So insane.
It's so crazy. So I created it 2 years ago on the 10th anniversary of my husband's passing, and we did do it on the exact day. So we did it on a Tuesday at a gallery, and it features myself and six other widows. Who all became widows at 45 years or younger. Most of the widows became widows in their
Wow.
30s. But we told their stories, and it's a beautiful exhibit that portrays each widow in this joyful light, not in this downtrodden
Mm,
woe is me, but like
yeah.
in this beautiful light of who she is. There is a written part of her story, and then there's actually audio that you can also hear her voice tell a different
Oh,
part of the
that's awesome.
story. And we also had mementos that tie us to our spouses that we've lost. So like Paul loved bow ties, so I have his bow tie on exhibit, one of his bow ties and stuff like
Mm,
that. And so the lost love, like,
that's so cool.
it is so endearing to me. It's up
Mhm,
in another business here. It's not a gallery, but it's up in another business right now
mhm.
as an art show, and folks are going to be coming out in mid-April to check it out. So I'm just super excited that
Oh,
it's
that's so
still
cool.
living on, and yeah, so
That's so cool. Okay, you have to send, like, if there's a way for people to see that or whatever, send me that too,
yeah,
because
I'll
I'll
send
add
you
that.
some
That's really
links. We did have some news. We had some coverage. So I will at least send you
okay.
the news clips that people can check out and they
Okay,
can learn more
awesome.
about it. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea. I love that. I love it. And I think that I love that you chose the joyful side of it because, as we know, I mean, the reason why I started my Widows Who Whine thing is there's just not a lot of resources out there for women to move past the grief and the sorrow and really there's no, in my opinion, there's no expectation for widows to continue living a full life. There's no
Mm,
expectation to become joyful again. In fact, there's a lot wrapped up in, are you betraying him if you're happy again? Like, are you, you're not
mhm.
loyal to the lost. I've never said that out loud, but that actually is true. Like loyal to the lost.
That's a
That's
whole nother
There's
book.
so much of it.
That's a whole nother
Yeah.
book.
I mean, there's so much of it. And so I love any opportunity to show a widow who is now joyful. That just gives an example to all of those who are either getting those messages, heard those messages, or feeling that that draw to stay lost in that grief out of loyalty or whatever it is, or just not knowing the tools to move forward.
Yeah,
It's important. It's important for them to see examples of it actually happening because then they will know that they can get there. They
absolutely.
can get there.
Absolutely.
So I love it. I love it.
So good. Such a
Well,
rich
oh,
conversation.
this is
Thank
so
you.
good. Oh, I've been so looking forward to our time together, and it did not disappoint. It was so good. It was so
Yeah.
good. So, thank you so much. I really love, love, love getting to know you, getting to hear about Paul and learning about him, and just all the amazing things that you're doing. It's just impressive, and you're awesome.
Thank
You're an
you.
awesome soul,
Yeah,
and I'm
this
glad I
has been
know you.
great.
And
I'm so glad you
yeah.
started the Lost Love Stories. I'm so glad you did.
Thank you. Me too. Me too. But we'll definitely share all that stuff so you guys can you guys can find Elle and however you need her, because we all need more of what you're doing in our lives. So.
Great,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you
And
so
to the
much. And thank
listeners,
you to
just
everybody for
remember,
doing.
I
Yeah,
just want to really
yeah.
quickly say to the listeners, like we talked about earlier, like there is an
Hmm.
opportunity in every single obstacle. So find the opportunity, choose
Yeah,
joy, and choose to see the glass half
choose it.
full.
Hmm. Yes, super important reminder. I mean, choose how you're going to choose your mindset.
Yes.
Choose your mindset. Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for listening, for tuning in, and yeah, just choose your mindset. Choose joy in whatever the obstacle is, and you won't regret it. All right. Bye, everybody.